If, like me, you struggle with your weight, then stick around until the end of this video. Lumen, the world's first metabolic coach, has important insights tailor-made for you.
Hi, folks. Steve Shives here once again, sitting in for Jesse Dollemore. You know, Donald Trump's personal wealth and his business acumen have been central to his celebrity and to his political career from the very beginning. From the moment he descended that ridiculous golden escalator in 1915, I almost said. It feels like it's been that long, doesn't it? 2015, when he descended that golden escalator to begin his presidential campaign. It in a way, it seems almost as though we are all still on that escalator, doesn't it? God, I wish we could get off of that escalator. But the fact that Donald Trump was a very rich man and had been very successful in business, that was sort of the core of his pitch of himself to the American people. I should be the president. I should be the one to run this show because I'm very rich. And that means I'm smart. And that means I'm a good manager and a good businessman and a good negotiator and yada, yada, yada. His wealth has been central to the whole thing. And it has also been a favorite point of attack by his political opponents, including just recently Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris has talked in her stump speech and also during their one and so far only presidential debate about tax policy and economic philosophy, and how Trump's economic philosophy favors very, very wealthy people. And that's not fair because most people, Kamala Harris says, did not get the very generous head start that Donald Trump got. She has said most people don't get to start out with $400 million on a silver platter from their father. And Donald Trump disputes that. And actually, there was recently a fact check on this from PolitiFact. And the specific claim by Kamala Harris that is being fact checked here is former President Donald Trump, quote, started out with $400 million on a silver platter and then filed for bankruptcy 6 times. Vice President Kamala Harris has periodically needled her opponent in the presidential race, former President Donald Trump, over his business record. During a rally September 12th in Charlotte, North Carolina, Harris touted her plan to provide a $50,000 tax deduction for small business startups, then segued into a knock on how Trump started his own business career. Quote, you know, not everybody started out with $400 million on a silver platter and then filed for bankruptcy 6 times, Harris said. Harris used a similar line the same day in an appearance in Greensboro, North Carolina, 2 days earlier in her debate with Trump, and in a live-streamed conversation Oprah Winfrey hosted September 19th. During the debate, Trump responded, quote, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars. PolitiFact actually largely sides with Trump on this. As far as the details, it says in the summary of its finding, quote, Donald Trump received the present-day equivalent of $413 million from his father or his father's estate over the course of his lifetime, according to a comprehensive New York Times review of the Trump's family finances in 2018. It wasn't all available to him when he started out. He received perhaps $1 million to $2 million of that before being hired to work at the family business. But he always had a reasonable expectation of inheriting a share of his father's business. Trump's companies have filed for bankruptcy a total of 6 times. Yeah, that part's true. Of course, I think we all probably know that. The subject of Donald Trump's wealth is also the subject of a new book that came out last week, actually came out a week ago today as this video is being recorded and released. And it's a book called Lucky Loser, and it's written by the New York Times reporters Suzanne Craig and Russ Buettner, who have done a lot of the reporting that has revealed the truth about Trump's finances and where they come from and what he has said about them that is true and that is untrue. And I have not read the book myself, so I can't comment on everything the book says, but there is a very illuminating review of the book that was published in the Washington Post that I want to read a section from for you. The headline is, "Donald Trump's financial failures are stunning. Lucky loser has the receipts." And to me, the most interesting paragraph of this review is this: "The most important character in Donald Trump's life was his father, Fred Trump, who seems to have regarded him as a golden child, incapable of wrongdoing or mistakes. Fred offered his son, but only this son, quote, almost endless collateral for loans, connections in banking and politics, and a reliable wellspring of cash to pursue dreams and fame. He even paid for Donald's flashy Cadillac. While Fred Trump wasn't always a paragon of ethics, he made his money taking advantage of government programs for homeowners in ways that, at a minimum, skirted the rules. He was a man of his word, a penurious, detail-oriented businessman who built a real estate empire that was ultimately worth almost $1 billion. Everything about him stood in sharp contrast to his son, who became, quote, a black hole for Fred Trump's cash. That's a fact Donald has never acknowledged. Indeed, he diminished his father whenever possible, telling people, quote, my father, he could never do something like this." The authors of the book, Lucky Loser, Suzanne Craig and Russ Buettner, appeared last week on Fresh Air on NPR, where they were interviewed by Terry Gross. I want to play you a couple of clips from that interview as well. In this first clip, Terry Gross is talking to Russ Buettner about the present state of Trump's finances and also what we can expect the future holds for Donald Trump's bank account.
What is the state of Trump's finances now? He's lost a lot of licensing deals. There's businesses that he lost since he announced for president in 2016, and also since The Apprentice was canceled after he announced. So where does he stand now financially?
That is always a very difficult thing to ascertain. We have a very thorough record of his tax returns and some financial records through 2018. More of that came out afterwards. As near as we can tell, the big difference is that the two things that have insulated him from sort of the repercussions of the way he tends to run his businesses were his inheritance from his father and the money he received for being on The Apprentice and all the licensing deals that came from that you mentioned. Those two big pots of money, that's close to $1 billion in today's money. That mostly is not going to be available to him. And he has several businesses that lose money. So we think we're going to see continued contraction by Donald Trump. He sold the money-losing old post office hotel, or his lease to operate it. He sold his lease to operate a golf course in the Bronx. He sold several apartments that he owned that were worth quite a bit. So it looks to us like it's going to continue to shrink, and that these judgments, if they hold especially, could really create an existential threat to his finances.
Not a very rosy picture of Trump's financial future, is it? An existential threat to his finances doesn't sound very promising. Trump is losing the money that he has due to a combination of his own incompetence and the long overdue comeuppance that he is facing for some of his many, many wrongdoings that he has committed over the years that he is only now being brought to account for in the courts. But where did all that money come from? And where did this notion of Donald Trump as an ultra-wealthy business superhero come from in the first place? That's discussed in this next clip from the Fresh Air interview, where Terry Gross asks Russ Buettner and also his co-author Suzanne Craig about that.
So a lot of the book is about, deals on hotels and, buildings like Trump Tower and casinos. Some of the book is about how the media created the image of Trump as this wildly successful businessman. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because that's part of what got him elected as president in 2016, was this image that you kind of undo in your book. So let's start with 1982, when he was listed on Forbes' first list of the 400 wealthiest Americans. Based on what? What were his finances like, and what did he claim to be?
I mean, that's one of the great mysteries. That's one of the things that requires constant untangling about Donald Trump. This is a very small, privately owned family operation, and that was based almost entirely on Forbes looking at some of the properties that the family owned. That was his father's business at the time, and trying to assign some value to that. And really, when you go back and look at it, it was based on things that Donald Trump told Forbes reporters, and that's how he got there. And within a short period of time, he told Forbes that he had taken over the company, and that he had complete control of its finances and its operation, and that was not true either.
Right, so part of what he was claiming as his was really his father's wealth.
Right, and I think, Terry, what I found to be one of the most surprising parts of the book was just how successfully and how long it went on that Donald Trump lied about his wealth, and that he was able to do that without anybody. There was a few reporters who did question him, but it started in the 1970s, just when he was in his 20s. There was a New York Times article that ran in the early 1970s that claimed at a very young age that his wealth was more than $200 million. He had just, taken that was his father's wealth, and said it was his own. And that went on for decades. And you see through serious publications, and also even on 60 Minutes, they were calling him a billionaire with no evidence.
How did this story, this myth of Donald Trump as an incredibly wealthy and incredibly successful and smart business person come about? He lied. The source for all of these claims, the source for all of these assumptions about Donald Trump is Donald Trump. And he wasn't honest. He lied about his wealth. He lied about his father's wealth being his own wealth. He lied to Forbes. He lied to the New York Times. He lied to 60 Minutes and other major media outlets that should have known better. And those media outlets just repeated his lies. Does that sound familiar? This has been happening since the 1970s. This is who he has always been. This is who Donald Trump is and always will be and has been from the moment that anybody knew his name. Lying, bragging, self-aggrandizing, taking credit for other people's work, taking credit for things that other people have, taking credit for his father's wealth as if it was his, and then running his father down in public when he could in order to build himself up, trying to make himself seem like a bigger deal and smarter and more of a success by running down his father. And I'm not trying to defend Fred Trump here by any means. Fred Trump, from all indications, was a piece of garbage. A lot of you probably have heard the story that Fred Trump, at age 22 in 1927, was arrested at a Klan rally. He and Donald were sued by the federal government for racist housing discrimination in the 1970s. Fred Trump was not a good guy, but apparently Fred Trump was at least a pretty good business person. He was the thing that Donald Trump pretends to be, and the reason why Donald Trump is able to pretend to be that is because his daddy actually was that, and he takes credit for his father's work when he has apparently none of the same ability and skill. This is who Donald Trump is. This is who he has always been. He invents his own reality and expects the rest of us to just humor him and allow him to live in it and give him whatever he wants, just like his father always did. Well, your father's been dead for 25 years, Donald. Time to grow up. That's it, folks. I am Steve Shives. Once again, I'm sitting in this week for Jesse Dollemore. If you enjoyed this and you'd like to see more of me than any reasonable person could ever really want to see, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Steve Shives, or follow me at my various social media accounts. Links to those are in the description. And of course, if somehow you are seeing this and you are not yet subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to the Dollemore channel. It's excellent. I don't think you will regret it. Don't forget, We have an election coming up here in the United States on November 5th. So if you are watching this and you are one of my fellow Americans, please double check your registration. And if you can do more, please do more. But at the very least, on November 5th, vote. Thanks for watching, folks. I'll see you next time.
Anyone who has watched my videos for a while now will know that I struggle with my weight a little bit. From diets to workout regimens and apps filled with wisdom, I feel like I have sampled the spectrum of weight loss options. I think that I've made pretty great progress of late too, if I do say so myself. And no, not through some dubious miracle cure. I have been using Lumen to study my metabolism. Lumen has allowed me to better understand how effectively the foods I eat turn into the energy that keeps me going. But let's back up. What is Lumen anyway? Well, it's the world's first handheld metabolic coach. With just one breath in the morning, Lumen measures your metabolism. It lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and then recommends a personalized health plan to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and stress management. Take the next step in improving your health by going to lumen.me/Dollemore to receive 15% off of your purchase. That's lumen.me/Dollemore for 15% off your first order. Lumen is not just a weight loss tool. Your metabolism is basically your body's engine turning food or fuel into the power to run the machine that is you. Optimizing that engine can bring about several benefits. Yes, easier weight management, like I've been doing, plus also increased energy levels, enhanced fitness results, and improved sleep. Using your own real-time metabolic readings, Lumen will generate a plan to put you in the most optimal state for what you're doing. If you breathe into Lumen before you work out, Lumen can tell you whether or not you need to carb up, for instance. No more cookie cutter, one-size-fits-all nutritional strategies. Craft a healthier version of you with Lumen. Head to lumen.me/Dollemore to receive 15% off of your purchase. That's lumen.me/Dollemore for 15% off. Illuminate your metabolic health with Lumen.